Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the columnist and blogger of the Big Mac blog, it's Mac Engel. How you doing, Mac?
I'm good, Bryan. What's going on?
Listen, I wanted to talk sports, and I gave you all this list of subjects, and then it all kind of got blown away when I saw that Snooki gave birth to a baby boy.
Is the baby boy taller than Snooki right now?
Probably. Proving
I forgot about her. I keep wondering when that whole and it seems like it's faded a lot. That whole Jersey Shore thing was going to kind of fade into oblivion and be replaced by something else equally as moronic. But I've been really I think, Bryan, maybe it's changed since the media culture has expanded so much in our lifetime. Do you remember the expression 15 minutes of fame?
Yes.
It seems to me the likes of Snooki and Kate Goslin and all these other reality TV stars have enjoyed 15 hours, 15 days, 15 months, 15 years of fame because of this constant need to fill content, to fill pages. So instead of quality, really quality people, people who actually achieve, I shouldn't say quality people who actually really achieved something, like the late Neil Armstrong.
Right.
Who was a very, very private man. I mean, my God, that guy had 15 minutes of fame that was as enduring as anything that's ever happened in our lifetime, right? And here we have this woman who is, I don't know what she did. I don't know what she does, yet for some reason has had more ink spent on her, more TV coverage spent on her than maybe Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin combined.
So what you're saying is you don't think Snooki has made as big a contribution to society as Neil Armstrong? Is that your problem?
The sad part of it, if you look at the amount of ink and airwaves dedicated to her, I think she has.
That's the scariest thing we've said all day.
It is. Yep.
I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Thank you.
Okay, well, now we're going to talk about something much more intelligent, and that is this babysitting rules that the Cowboys have set up with Des Bryant. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I was covering the Cowboys in 2008 when they signed Pac-Man Jones, and they had similar mechanisms in place to try to basically try to get Pac-Man to walk the straight line and not get in trouble. It was basically things set up to protect Pac-Man against himself, right?
Right.
And Pac-Man, if I don't know how much you followed it since then, Pac-Man with the Bengals, by all accounts, is a guy who's really learned, and which is amazing because I remember having talked to Pac-Man a number of times, both just chatting in a hotel lobby or in an airport one time, and he hadn't gone through what he's gone through. And in this particular case, you did see a guy who understood, and maybe was not the smartest man in the world, certainly not the most educated man in the world, but you saw a guy who got it, and because he had been through a lot, and a lot of his own self-inflicted errors, which we've unfortunately all done, and you saw a guy who did get it. With Des is much younger than by the time Pac-Man came to the Cowboys, so I think the hope is that they're trying to get ahead of it a little bit and put some things in place so he can mature. Because the reality of it is you've talked to this guy, he's not a bad guy. This isn't like, we're not dealing with a Terrell Owens type of personality here. We're dealing with just basically a young and pretty immature guy, but not a bad guy, and a guy who, quite frankly, did grow up with a certain in a home that I don't think many people can ever relate to. So I think the Cowboys are trying to. I mean, ultimately, the Cowboys are acting in their own best interest to try to get this guy on the field and eligible because they need him to win games. But there is another benefit to it, and I may be naive, but there is another benefit to it in trying to say, this is how you do it. This is how you be a pro. This is how you be a young man and develop and mature into an adult. Professional adult. So I think there are some, whether or not it can happen, it's up to Des. And I don't know if it can or not. Like I said, I think it's done for the ultimate reasons of playing 16 games. But whether or not it'll work, ultimately, if Des wants to go find trouble, Dez can go find trouble.
That's the only thing that that concerns me about this whole situation. I got no problem with the Cowboys trying to babysit the guy and teach him. The only problem I have with any of this at all is why didn't they do this 2 years ago?
Probably because I don't think anything had happened yet.
But they knew he had issues, though.
Yeah, everybody knew he had issues. Everybody knew he had issues. I think back in his days at Lufkin, and I do think this is a product of just a really, really challenging childhood. I mean, it was a teenage mom. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money. It was tough. And so why didn't the Cowboys do it? Well, I think it's like anything else we do, and it's not just Dez or the Cowboys doing it. You never try to do it until you've already screwed up. You never try to fix the problem until there's been an error. And with Dez, there's been, a couple, whether it was the money thing or the North Park thing, or now this most recent one, the domestic disturbance with his mom. Things have happened, so now they're like, okay, now we got to try to fix it. And I think that's common. It doesn't mean most people don't go to the doctor until they're sick. And I think this is the same kind of thing.
Now, the cynics out there, one of which is David Smoke, says that they're doing this all just to show Roger Goodell that Dez is being handled, and so that he won't get suspended.
I think David's right. I mean, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some of that to that, no question about it. I think that Smokey's point of view on this was that it's ridiculous that you got to babysit a guy that's an adult, but I'm thinking, hey, the guy didn't learn what he should have learned when he was 5, and at some point somebody's got to teach him something.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think all of us at some point or another have screwed up enormously. Well, I mean, responsible adults have screwed up enormously. Things that they know better. And they did it anyways, right?
Yes.
Whatever. I mean, whatever it is. And I'm talking vice, whatever. So I think in this particular case, you almost are more inclined to cut this guy maybe a little bit more slack because he's 23 and some of the realities of the way he grew up, as opposed to somebody like me or somebody's 50 or whatever else. But I think ultimately, David's right. I mean, they want to do right by Dez. They want to do right by Dez because they want him on the field. They want his talent. They need his talent on the field. So whether it's not to show Roger Goodell, hey, we've got this thing in place to keep this guy walking on the straight and narrow, or whatever else, they're doing everything they can so they can keep that guy on the field who can make those kind of touchdown catches that unfortunately was called back that he made against the Chargers in the preseason. How many guys on this planet can do that?
Nobody I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 5, 10, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not many of them. I mean, so at this point, if they're going to be all in to keeping this guy and getting that kind of potential on the field, then yeah, I mean, there's about 16 games, man. And the thing that's crazy about it, Bryan, when I look at him, it boggles my mind. It's not necessarily just that. It's like, dude, why aren't you wearing thigh pads yet?
Yeah, that's it. I'm glad you're concerned for his well-being.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. If we're going to be concerned for his well-being and put these fleet of guys, advisors around him to try to get him to behave, put some thigh pads on him so he doesn't get another thigh bruise.
Man, your compassion it brings a tear to my eye.
I mean, it is. I mean, there is some. Legitimately, and I do mean this because I remember talking to his high school coach, the guy who unfortunately passed last year. I can't
John
remember
Outlaw.
His name. Yeah, John Outlaw, and he and I spoke last year about Dez, and I think everybody who I've talked to about Dez, whether it's Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State or John Outlaw, they knew that this was a good guy. They knew this guy had a good heart, legitimately. They also knew he was surrounded by a lot of people in his life that made his life complicated and full of drama. And that's hard. And when those people are your family and your loved ones, that's hard to just say no to.
Yeah, you can't just walk away from those folks.
No, it's hard. I mean, pick your nose, can't pick your relatives, and it's really, really hard when you love them and you care about them. I think in this particular case, yeah, there is some compassion there. And you hope just as a person he can figure it out. But the Cowboy fan in you hopes like, well, stay on the field for 16 games, please.
Exactly. That's what really counts. That's what it really
Yeah,
matters.
that's it. I mean, that's what people. I mean, I think that's the sad part.
Well, it's true.
Yeah, you worry about if this was happening to your neighbor. Yeah, that's absolutely right. You're like, oh man, I hope this guy turns it around. But no one knows this guy. I mean, heck, I've talked to him, interviewed some people about him. That's great. I don't know Dez. So if I don't know him, and I have access to him theoretically, then the person sitting with the stands really doesn't know him, and their interest is one thing and one thing only: go catch touchdowns, stay on the field and catch touchdowns,
win the football game. That's the main
thing.
Right. That's right. That's right. All right. One last thing, real quickly. I want your take on Lance Armstrong being stripped of all of his Tour de France titles by an agency that can't do it.
I don't get it. I get that, and I do. I read something about this. I only talked to Lance Armstrong once. He was very professional and nice to me. But like many people in that circumstance who've achieved that much, there are a lot of people out there who don't like him because I think, not unlike a lot of people who've achieved that much, they drive with a singular focus and run over a lot of people in their way. Get out of my way. I'm doing it my way. Get out of my way. I'm doing it my way. And I think with Lance, there's a reason why so many of his former teammates came out and spoke out against him as a guy who used performance-enhancing drugs. I think that I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't know where I read that, but I don't think that's a coincidence why that happened. If this guy if all of his teammates loved him, I think they would have said, no, I never saw Lance do anything, even if he didn't or did. The reality is he never flunked the test, man. I mean, never flunked the test. He never even had so much as the stuff that Barry Bonds had on him in terms of the prosecution out in San Francisco. So I think in this particular case, nothing changes the fact that he won the titles. Nothing changes the fact that he did so in an era where it is perceived all of these guys are taking something to maintain that level of success and competitiveness. So for me, I'm like, good for him. I don't blame him. He's going to be 41 next month. It's not like he can really compete anymore at that level, even if he took all the drugs in the world.
Yeah.
So to me, and this is more of a jaded view about it, I just have sort of accepted that people who are thriving at that level, whether it's on Wall Street, whether it's in politics, whether it's in sports or entertainment, they're probably doing some stuff that doesn't look great on the black and white sheet of rules. And maybe, and the too bad part is some of them probably are. But in this particular case, I never really believed. I believed once he crossed 30, Bryan, I always believed, yeah, he's probably doing something.
Oh yeah,
probably.
Well, again, it's the cynic in us because we've been fooled enough times that It's,
yeah, and I know what you're saying, and to me, it's what some of those guys have to do to remain competitive, and I don't think it. The Barry Bonds thing is different for me because Bonds achieved a record that, baseball's every era is different, but baseball statistics were so hallowed, and I think everybody knows Barry Bonds did something to break Hank Aaron's record, and that's what bums me out about that, is that Hank Aaron was really, and I'm sure Hank Aaron was flawed, I mean, he has to be, but, he didn't do that. We know that, because it didn't exist.
Exactly.
And Bonds did, so he got the record, and so did Lance Armstrong take some? Yeah, and he got a record, 7 straight and all that stuff. Cycling is different than baseball, but, it doesn't change the fact that Lance Armstrong, for a lot of people, unlike Bonds, I think, Lance Armstrong defeated cancer, and he lived a life and he achieved something. That, in and of itself, is inspirational.
Well said. Hey, Mac, good talking to you, buddy.
Bryan, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.